Hey guys, what's up? I actually wanted to talk to you today about probably my favorite feature a guitar pedal can have. So let's get into it. It worked really well for me to film this video. I've had an idea about for a while today because you see my pedal board here in front of you. This is my flat board that I use for shows that the Kemper sits on. So the Kemper sort of takes up this area here up top, and then I run a host of other pedals into it. So I'm going to film a quick video on my favorite feature a pedal can have, and then we're going to take a look at in a second video we're going to take a look at the signal chain that I use with the Kemper, because that is one of the most common questions you get when folks want to run pedals with the Kemper. Which ones do they run up front, if any? Should they just put everything in the effects loop? All of that. So we're going to take care of that in a separate video. But for this one, this sort of gives us a blank pedal board layout to explain what my favorite feature is that a pedal can have. My favorite feature a pedal can have is my favorite feature for one simple reason. If the pedals that I put on my board have this feature, I can actually put more pedals on my board, which is about the best thing that anyone can do, is just cram as many pedals on there as possible. I say that tongue in cheek. It's, I typically do run about as many as I possibly can, but they need to be able to, be spaced far enough apart and laid out in a way that you can actually use them and you're not accidentally hitting things you don't intend to when you're playing live. But let's get into it. So my favorite pedal feature is top-mounted jacks on a pedal. So looking at the old Prince of Tone, so if you take a look at it, it has jacks on the top. This is my favorite feature of pretty much any pedal of any type, and for that reason, I own a decent amount of them and use most of the ones that are on my board tend to have top-mounted jacks. So if you are deciding right now, between a few different pedals and you're looking for what your next pedal is going to be or something, and you're sort of torn between multiple, if one of them has jacks on the top, just buy that one, and I will explain why. So getting into my rationale for why top-mounted jacks are my favorite feature, I'm going to demonstrate. Okay, I'm going to demonstrate why this is super, super helpful and important to me. We have the pedal board here. It's blank. I still need to set it up for shows tomorrow and Friday night. I'm shooting this on a Wednesday. So let's get into it. First pedal that is probably going to be on my board for the show is the Analog Man envelope filter that I have. I have this here starting as it has a very typical pedal layout. It has input jack on this side, output jack on the other side, power jack on top. It's about the most common layout you'll find on a pedal. So on the other side of the board, I have my expression pedal, which is the Dunlop Mini, and I use this with the Kemper. So these are sort of my bounds. I'm going to explain in this video that when I said top-mounted jacks were my favorite feature, it's because I can fit more pedals in the space between my envelope filter and my expression pedal with top-mounted jacks than I can with standard locations. So I'm gonna get into that real quick. Let's grab some pedals. If I was gonna grab pedals that had a traditional layout and build a board out of them to use with my Kemper, you can just pretend that my Kemper's right here, sitting on top of this power supply, which gets tucked nicely underneath. And if you're wondering what this is up here, this is a buffer. This is a T1M buffer. Goes at the very end of my drives. It goes right before I plug it into the Kemper. Again, I'll get into signal chain in another video. I think these guys are the skinniest cables on my board. They're just kind of normal pancakes that I soldered together, and because I think they're the skinniest, we'll use them to give the argument the benefit of the doubt here. All right, so let's just say the first pedal that's going to go in my signal chain is, let's say it's a Fuzz. Let's say it's this the Behringer Super Fuzz, which is super cheap and really awesome if you don't have one. They don't make them anymore, I don't think. I think they're out of production, but they're great if you can find one. All right, so I'm not gonna plug this cable into every pedal, but just for the sake of kind of how I'm gonna space them apart and explaining that, I'm basically putting it this way. So I'm basically assuming that I can jam them as close together with the ends touching as possible. They need to be about this far apart to enable the two ends of the patch cable to fit between the two jacks. So I'm not going to plug every pedal in, but we'll kind of assume, I'm just going to go ahead and lock that guy down, and we'll just sort of, you know, guesstimate, but use about that width there. So, all right. So that's kind of how I'm going to do it. So if I look at that width, right, between the two jacks, this is even a little bit less than the space that I think you would need. And I do hear the argument of, well, duh, dum-dum, if you space out your pedals like this, you can put the jacks side by side instead of right next to each other. Honestly, for my purposes, I have done that in the past, but I'm not going to do that here because the way the Kemper hangs over with this setup, this would literally be tucked underneath the Kemper, and that's not really what I would want or what I do. So I'm just going to do it this way. So I understand that yes, you can stagger your pedals and fit more space in there, but I don't really care because I don't do that, so it doesn't help me. But anyway, so that's the first pedal. Got that on there. One other argument to my logic here, I would say, is people would say, well, dude, you can get low profile cables and then you could fit more pedals close together. That is also true, and it's actually on my Christmas list. So we'll see if I happen to get any. Cough, cough. I think my wife is probably listening to me. She can probably hear me in another room. So anyway, that's on my Christmas list. Some of the Ernie Ball, like very, very slim profile cables, but I don't have any. So again, doesn't matter. I have some lava tight ropes, which are pretty small, but I've had them for about 7 or 8 years and they've given me some issues. I don't feel like remaking them when I just went ahead and made soldered cables that are much more reliable. So that's why I'm using this. All right, so we got the Super Fuzz on here about where it would be if you had cables plugged into it. So using the same kind of logic and, using the JHS Moonshine, since the jacks are sort of offset, we'll put it even closer, just for the sake of argument. We'll put it pretty close, all right? So that's great. That works really, really well. Okay, so next, let's say that I want to put a phase 90. Let's say I want to put my phase 90 in here. All right, so I need about that much space. And then when I'm going to put my Ibanez 89 on here, that's about the right spacing, right? I think. So my 89, if I was going to put that on this board, that's about the right spacing. Actually, for another pedal, I'm going to put behind the JHS Moonshine, I'm going to put one of my new favorite pedals, the Timmons Plus. This pedal's super rad. I have another idea to do a video just on this pedal. Spoiler on that is I didn't think I was going to like this pedal, but I actually completely love it, which I'll explain another time. But anyway, so if I'm spacing these guys out, right, once I get my fuzz, a couple overdrives, a phaser, and typically in this modulation spot, I'll use a phaser or a chorus pedal, something like that, and then run a delay, right? In this case, I could run 2 delays on this board, and I often will run 2 pedals like that, whether it's 2 delays or maybe I'll run an extra modulation pedal, which I'll show in a minute. But yeah, basically with the Kemper on here, again assuming the Kemper is taking up that space because that's where it goes, I can really only fit these pedals on here. And this is honestly, it always looks good when you lay them all out and go, oh yeah, I've got plenty of room. And then you actually start plugging things in, you have cables that aren't the perfect length, all of that. And you start out thinking, oh, I've got plenty of space, and it ends up being, kind of just right. So this is about all I would be able to get on here. So I have my filter, and then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pedals before I hit my expression. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and lay out now the pedals that I'm actually gonna put on this board, assuming that I wanna use all top mounted jack pedals. So so I'm basically going to strike these 5 in the middle, and then I'm going to, we'll see how many top mounted jack pedals I can get in here. All right, so let's get it started. So instead of the Super Fuzz, we will go with the Analog Man Sunbender because it absolutely rules and it has top mounted jacks. So we're gonna put that, again, we'll still use this envelope filter. Pretty much every envelope filter, let me think. Yeah, I've owned, I think, 3 different ones. I've had the Analog Man, I've had the Keely Neutrino, and I have a Source Audio Spectrum, which is a really rad, awesome envelope filter. They all have input and output jacks on the sides. I've yet to find a envelope filter that has top mounted jacks. So we're just gonna leave this one on here. But so for the Fuzz, let's see. If this was plugged in, I could put the Fuzz about right here. All right, so we'll start there. Is that right? Yeah, so I can put that about right there. That's great. Gives me plenty of room to start out with. All right, let's say next, my first drive. Let's go Prince of Tone. All right, Prince of Tone again stacks right up against it because there are no jacks on the side, so I can just pancake them together. And the buttons are still far enough apart. I'm pretty nimble, I feel like, with my toe. So, you know, those are far enough apart that I will be completely fine. No worries at all. All right, so next I will put the Keely Dm Drive on here because it rocks. And just to prove a point, this pedal is huge in terms of footprint. I mean, it's much bigger than the Prince of Tone, right? It's about, not quite 1.5 Prince of Tones, but kind of. It's a lot. It's a very big pedal. Now, when I say it's a big pedal, that's not really fair. It is incredibly compact, and you get a lot for what is in this box. I'm just saying it's bigger than a normal, standard box size pedal. But even so, we'll just put it in here to prove a point. I still think we're going to get more pedals in here, even with a massive dual drive like this. It has top mounted jacks, so don't at me. All right, so even with the D&M drive, I think I could still get 3 more pedals in here. So I think I'm going to be able to get an extra pedal, even though the D&M drive is absolutely massive. I still think we're going to get more pedals in here, even with a dual drive, than we did with standard size pedals before. All right, so next I'm going to put the Analog Man Mini Chorus on here because it's pretty awesome. And again, side mounted, no side mount jacks. I can put it right up beside it, not a problem at all. So next I will throw on here the Walrus Audio Monument Tremolo. I use this on the harmonic mode all the time. It sounds amazing. It's really great. Kind of does that brown face, Fender brown face tremolo thing. So that's awesome. All right, so we're gonna put that there. Dude, yeah, I definitely still have room for another pedal in here. So let's just say I don't even have any more top mounted jack pedals, but so I could fit something like an ARP87 in here because I'm an insane person. I have the standard one and I have the neon one here. The neon one looks better, so it's on my board because, I mean, who doesn't want to play a pedal that looks like that? So yeah, I could put another pedal, standard size with top mount jacks here. Yeah, so if I was to wire this up, right, let's assume, I mean, I could have both of these delays on the board. I could have one set to an analog I could use all the time, and then I have another one on the lo-fi setting. I might actually do that at some point in the future, but I just have the ARP87 here to make a point. The point is, where I fit 5 pedals before, I can now fit 6. And not just any 6. The D&M drive is pretty huge, so I can basically fit about 6.5 pedals instead of 5. Let's just say I had another pedal with top mounted jacks. I don't in front of me, so I'm just gonna throw the Moonshine back on here to make a point. If I did, man, I bet you I could fit even another pedal on here. So if I put the envelope filter over here, give enough room for that. All right, so let's see. If I do this, again, the jacks add a bit of room. Let's say I want to put a phaser on the end. Man, I could almost squeeze another pedal in there. I could almost do it. You know what? I can squeeze another. I could put, if I wanted to, I could put a mini pedal like my Moore pitch box. So let's say I wanted to run that at the very front. So obviously the Phase 90 does not have top mounted jacks. I just have it here to prove a point. So if I was to do this, right, I would actually run into the pitch box first. And if I was to do that, just for the sake of the argument, yeah, dude, I think that would work. Man, that would be pretty tight. I have a little room to work with over here if I really wanted to, but man, if I had top mounted jacks for everything for everything except my analog envelope filter, I could fit one extra pedal in here and I could fit a mini pedal up front. So I could basically fit legitimately 6.5 pedals, whereas I could only fit 5 before with standard jacks. So I think this proves the point. I think this proves the point pretty well. With top mounted jacks, I'm able to actually get at least one extra pedal on my board. I like that. I like that it gives me additional flexibility. It lets me have something else to mess around with in the night. You just never know what you're gonna flip on in the middle of a set. If you know a set pretty well and you know the songs pretty well, you might take a stab at, hey, I'm gonna try tremolo in this one part now that I have space for a tremolo pedal on my board, or I'm gonna try phaser in this part that I'm not playing a whole lot. I'm kind of maybe one strumming or something, but I want a little bit more motion. I might be able to use the Phase 90, whereas I couldn't before. Something like that. I mean, dude, being able to fit an additional modulation pedal on your board just because the rest of your pedals have top mounted jacks is pretty rad. So that's why it is my favorite feature. All right, so let's put this back over here because we're about to actually build my production board in another video. So, all right. Well, that is it. So, hopefully this is helpful. If you are deciding between 2 pedals or 3 pedals or whatever for your next one, and one of them has top mounted jacks and the others do not, it's easy. Pick that pedal and enjoy it and throw something else on your board with the space that you freed up. If this was helpful, if you liked it, if you thought it was somewhat entertaining, just share it with a friend who's a guitar player who would like it. Just copy the link and shoot it over to them. One thing I want to ask for this video is, if you have a pedal that has top mounted jacks that you are in love with, please put it in the comments below so that I can find out about it. I always, if I'm moving pedals in and out and trying things, there's a good chance I'll give it a shot. All right, thanks for listening to me ramble about a feature which is kind of silly, but that I like a lot. And yeah, hopefully this was helpful. Take care. You know what is super funny that I just realized? It all comes back to the DD20. Everything comes back to the DD20 because the DD20 has all, flip around this way, because the DD20 has all top mounted jacks. Boss knew. Maybe that's the real reason why I love this pedal so much. I don't know. Wow, that's mind-blowing. I used to have one that had a jack on the side so you could send the tap tempo to other pedals. So that had a jack on the side. Man, this pedal's good. Boss and their foresight. Man.